Welcome to part 4 of the PC building guide. Today we'll be talking about and installing the power supply unit, or the PSU. Let's get right into it. The power supply unit is what provides power for all of your PC components. Your PC will not run without an adequate amount of power. This is why you should always calculate the amount of power that you need based on your other components and aim to buy at least 100 to 200 watts more than what you need. You can use an online power calculator to figure that out. You also want to be aware of the efficiency rating of your PSU. You want to look for at least 80 plus bronze, which means that it uses 80% of its max power, while 20% is lost to the heat. The higher this rating, the better this ratio will be, and you can get 80 plus silver, gold, even platinum. There are also different sizes that you can choose from depending on the case, but today I'll be using a standard ATX form factor. Here I have the Corsair AX 850 watt power supply with an 80 plus gold rating. 850 watts will be plenty for all the components that I'll be using. Another thing to note is that this is a modular supply, which means that you can connect and disconnect any power cables that you need freely. This is good to limit the amount of cables that you need for your PC, as opposed to a non or semi-modular PSU, where you can't remove any of the cables and it becomes a mess if you don't know how to cable manage. Taking a look at our case here, the power supply is going to fit in this large bracket on the right, so that the outlet plug and switch are facing outwards through the hole in the case. Now let's go over all the different cables that you're going to need. First is the 24-pin ATX cable, which gives power to the entire motherboard. This cable is essential for the build and is the largest of the cables, so it's pretty hard to miss. It plugs into the largest slot on the power supply, as well as one of the 10-pin slots above it, just like so. Next we have the EPS cable, which provides power to the CPU. This will have at least 8 pins, and the connection is located near the CPU socket on the motherboard. It plugs into one of the 10-pin connectors on the power supply. You are also going to need a PCIe cable to provide power to your GPU. It's usually labeled, and this is either a 6-pin or 8-pin, 6 plus 2 maybe. You may need more than one, but in this case, my cable splits into 2 PCIe heads. This also plugs into the last 10-pin connector on your PSU. Lastly, if you are not using an M.2 storage unit, you will need the SATA power cables for providing power to your storage devices such as your hard drive, SSD, and even your disk drives. Each cable usually has a few SATA connectors on it to allow for multiple connections on just one cable. I'll be needing 2 of these because I'm connecting 3 things, the SSD, hard drive, and a disk drive, but each cable only has 2 connectors. These plug into one of the 6-pin connectors on the PSU. Now, in some cases, you might also need these 4-pin Mullix cables for supplying power to certain fans on your case. I'll be needing just one of these, and this also connects to the 6-pin hole on your power supply. That is pretty much all you'll need for your power supply cables. In the end, it should look something like this. Sometimes the PSU will have specific labels for which each of the cables should go, and in that case, you would plug in these cables into the corresponding labeled port. Now, finally, we can install the power supply. Carefully lower the power supply into place and line it up so that the holes match the holes on the case. The power switch and port should be visible from the outside. You're going to need the 4 screws that came with your power supply in the box. Start by screwing in one corner. Now, it's important to follow the crisscross screwing method for even pressure when screwing something down. There's a lot of delicate stuff here, and you don't want anything to crack while you're screwing something in. So this is the best way to do things. Once you have one screw in, the next screw will be the one diagonally opposite of the first one. Then you can do the other 2 corners. So screw in the remaining 3 screws, and just like that, you have installed your power supply into your case. Awesome stuff. We have now prepped everything we need with the case and with the motherboard, and are ready to start installing the motherboard and finishing up the build. But we'll talk about that in the next video. If you made it this far, congratulations, you've done an excellent job. It's really not that hard so far, right? And we're making amazing progress. I'll see you in the next video.